And you look back and like, oh my gosh, I've literally done nothing more than been purely focused on living this life that I wanted. And I hacked my future by having a strong mind and these things. And today to say, you're financially independent and I'm helping other people become financially independent. And it's like, wow, it's a hack. There's a simple solution to this problem of people really wanting to be work optional, to have freedom, freedom of their time, freedom of their money, freedom with their relationships, freedom of their purpose. And I was like, wow, if I could help people hack their future to give them those things, then that's why I picked the cover of it. Because there's definitely a path. There's definitely a process of how you get there.
Welcome to this edition of Retire Well, Retire Happy with your host, Annie Nelson. An Australian look at reinventing yourself for retirement and getting yourself retirement ready. It's always fascinating getting to know what people are getting up to in retirement, how they are supplementing their incomes, pensions, where they have chosen to live, how they are filling their time, what charities they are supporting, and what adventures they are having. And we'll also talk to experts in their fields, including investing, health, estate planning, financial advisors, and seniors healthcare.
Hi, welcome back to the Retire Well, Retire Happy show with your host, Annie Nelson. And today our special guest is Scott Jarrett. And Scott is the CEO of Invest, specializing in providing comprehensive wealth management solutions for high net worth individuals to protect and preserve their wealth. Jarrett left corporate America more than 17 years ago to build a company committed to making money work for people and to flip the traditional wealth industry on its head. Today, Invest has created an environment outside of Wall Street conformity, one that's broken through the limitations of financial planning and instead focuses on financial positioning. Jarrett is dedicated to providing smarter, faster, and innovative personal wealth solutions for his clients. Welcome to the show, Scott.
Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. So I gather you're an author now, but before we get into talking about the new book you've written, could you please tell us about your journey and your experience working in the finance industry before we get into what inspired you to write your book?
Yeah, so my journey was definitely, I didn't know I was going to be in this business, quite honestly. I went to school to be an architect and then ended up moving into urban development and then realized that to be a real estate developer, I needed money. So I ended up getting a technology degree and worked for big tech in corporate America for not very long because I realized I wasn't employable because I really wanted to help people in a different way. So I started a financial company at the time, just working with business owners, helping them think through financial decisions, how to get the business to run like I was doing for these tech companies. And then once I knew I just wanted to be a financial business consultant, then the financial side came about because they were always worried about money and how that would look. So I was like, all right, so we need to really get clear on the financial side. So how do you get a business to run? How do you get it to become self-managing? And then come to find out the business values and the personal values are very aligned. So I started studying everything I could do about finance, went and got my CFP and got licensed and started working with family offices and high net worth and created this business consulting company that today manages money, helps them raise capital, gets them financially organized, helps the business owner discover their true why for money and those types of things. So that has been my journey. So we started the company in 2003. I worked in corporate America for about a year and a half, and here we are, quite a few years later.
That's an amazing journey you've had. It's very inspiring and encouraging that you actually found something to do that you enjoy.
Very much so.
So your book has an unusual name, Future Hack, How to Reach Your Full Financial Potential. So what inspired you to actually write this book?
Well, I'll tell you, when I grew up, I didn't really have anything. So I grew up in an environment that was very scarcity in nature, meaning, a lot of people on subsidized housing, trying to figure out just, the basic needs of what was going on. And it was very difficult growing up as a kid, not being able to do things, seeing your parents, I had a single mother struggling just to get by. Had a brother and sister who was much younger. So by the time I was 12 years old, I had a paper route, was doing everything I possibly could to just make enough money so we could do stuff and live. And then that happened. And the next thing you know, I ended up getting an opportunity to play football. And then next thing you know, I got a college scholarship. And then I was like, wow, I got this far. And then the next thing I know, I got this nice paying job that paid me a lot of money. And I'm like, great, well, what do I want to do next? And, I got a master's degree and, this job. And then next thing you know, I'm helping business owners. And then I'm like, well, how do we scale that? And then you look back and like, oh my gosh, I've literally done nothing more than been purely focused on living this life that I wanted. And I hacked my future by having a strong mind and these things. And today to say, you're financially independent and I'm helping other people become financially independent. And it's like, wow, it's a hack. There's a simple solution to this problem of people really wanting to be work optional, to have freedom, freedom of their time, freedom of their money, freedom with their relationships, freedom of their purpose. And I was like, wow, if I could help people hack their future to give them those things, then that's why I picked the cover of it. Because there's definitely a path. There's definitely a process for how you get there.
Okay. Well, that's terrific that you've been able to put your journey and you've actually put it into words, so to speak. There's a lot of people struggle with anxiety over money, and you say that this can lead to poor decisions. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, people do things because of money. They make choices. Like even when I was a kid, you'd make a decision on whether or not you went to school or took a low-paying job just to get by. I mean, that was a choice to either better your education. You can invest in your education for the future, or you're going to go and work to make ends meet today. It could be a business owner that's making financial decisions to get them to a certain place that would be completely the opposite of their goals and their vision that they set forth in the first place. So a lot of times financial anxiety makes big decisions. I mean, Warren Buffett says it really clearly, wealth and money is just really the transfer of money from the patient to from the inpatient to the patient. I mean, that's financial anxiety. Financial behaviors are some of the biggest decision struggle points for financial advisors out there today to help people manage their financial behaviors and make irrational decisions, because we are human and it's what we do. So money typically drives a ton of these decisions, whether you get married or you buy the house you wanted, your first car, whether you stay in a job for a long time or not, or whether to retire. So the anxieties that you have over money they're through everybody. And even the really wealthy have those. And it's like, oh, now I have it. How do I keep it? Right. They say, more money, more problems. So it doesn't matter who you are and where you are. Financial anxiety is everywhere. So how do you get yourself calm in understanding what that looks like?
Right. In your book, you talk about 1% controls the world's wealth. The reader has to adapt and evolve to survive and flourish. How can readers pull this off?
Oh, the 1% is controlled? Well, the good thing is, I mean, I know you're in Australia, so I don't know how everything works in Australia, but I know in the United States, we have a free market, you have a free economy, it's a capitalistic society, and you literally have the freedom to go do a lot of different things that you want, where you may not in other countries. So if the 1% of the wealth is controlled by whatever that may be, well, there's a lot of room left over for other things. So I didn't come from anything, was able to create it. And I can go through the list of so many other people that's true. So if there's one thing you really have to get clear with, is you got to get clear with yourself. You got to uncover for yourself what it is that you truly want. And we have a process that we go through of helping someone discover their true why. Like, why do they do what they do? Why is it that they're going through what they're going through? How they look at their life of, like, if something were to happen to that person today, would they have lived a life of regret? Like, what would you want it to look like? So if you were to pass away, heaven forbid, or you died today, like, what would you want your tombstone to say? Like, be real intentional. So go through a process where you really think about, what is it that I want? So if it's not accomplished and all these things aren't there, well, why not? What would your life look like? So very rarely do we ever sit down and really vision out exactly what we would want that to be. And it's different for everybody. Everyone's got a different thing, and it changes, it evolves. So if it's wealth or whatever, that may not be what you want, but maybe it's something else. But the 1% is controlled because they had a vision for what they wanted. They went and did it. And it's a proven path. Any professional athlete or anyone that's super successful has been very focused on that. So we have to as well. So if you want to get that, then we got to figure out why you do what you do, what you want to do, and what's your unique ability and how to go get it.
Sounds simple.
It really is.
It would be amazing that everyone could end up doing what they really wanted to do. You talk about being an abundant thinker. How do we change that, our thinking around to that way?
I think you hit it on a pretty good point. It'd be great if everybody could do what they wanted to do. So the question I would ask is, why don't they? It's got to be a mindset thing. Like for me, I've changed so many different times and things that I was doing. And the people that I knew were stuck in what I would call this scarcity mindset, meaning they're afraid to do something. They're in their current environment. They don't know how to step outside that environment to change their circumstances to get better. So there's really only two kinds of people. So the people that are stuck in those things, they're living this scarce world where they feel like, oh my gosh, I'm totally trapped in that. Versus abundant thinking, the abundant side of you would think that, all resources are plentiful. I have a unique gift. I'm trained to do something. I too can go do something that could change the world. Most people don't really believe that. So they stay stuck in that scarcity environment. It's very similar to like the environment that I grew up in, where, well, if you make too much money, then your food stamps are going to cut off. Or, if you do these types of things, then you're going to be in a worse situation, which is it's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Like you're living at this bare base bones of what you need, but you're never ever going to get the self-actualization until you can start rewiring your brain and say, you know what? I am going to go back. I'm going to work harder. I'm going to go back to school, get my degree, or I'm going to work something else. Or if you're a business owner, I'm going to think bigger about growing my business 10 times versus staying where it is. So it's that abundance mentality. If you look at anyone that's ever done anything great, they have those characteristics. So there's really only two kinds of people when you think about it. And I think it's real important to really understand where we are in that. And then how do you get yourself into a point where, I can go accomplish things if I really wanted to.
Right. Is it about always having to evolve? Do we get to a certain point and then we think, oh, well, we're here now, we're happy, but do we need to keep growing?
Yeah. If you're not growing, you're dying, unfortunately, because the world moves way too fast. Like things are always evolving very fast. And if you get stuck in complacency and where you are, the world's going to pass you by. So how are you always staying in your craft? What is it you really love to do? Whatever that may be. And you stay in that craft and you're always getting better at that thing, or you're upgrading your relationships, upgrading your thinking ability on how you can go get what you want. But that kind of mindset and always evolving will keep you up, because it's just a matter of time before another COVID thing hits, or a financial crisis, or you lose your job, or something happens. If you're not keeping up and really evolving along the way, then those changes become so disruptive that you can't handle through them. So it's almost like embrace the change, evolve through it, and then figure out what the new opportunity is.
So in your book, you've got like a roadmap, is it? Or how would you explain the steps that you take the reader through?
Yeah, so the roadmap's very simple. I mean, at the end of the day, the first thing you need to do is discover your true why. Like, why do you do what you do? What are you trying to do? And then once you clearly can outline that, then you got to start mapping out the journey of where you're going to go. For us, financial has a big piece of that. So if you've got this big vision that you're trying to do and you don't have if you don't know where to start, it's like starting a race without knowing the starting line. So you got to understand where you are. So you got to get your data completely organized. So we look at things 4-dimensionally. So it's like, do you have assets, liabilities, net worth? What's your cash flow? What's your protection? So once you get completely organized, then you can start weighing, measuring financial decisions. So the third thing would be you want to protect that nest egg, protect something. So what happens if you get sick or you die prematurely, become disabled, you get in a car accident, someone sues you? Make sure you own your things right. Protect against the uncertainties that you have. And then once you get clear on your protection, then it's about how do you manage your asset positioning. So everything you have, where do you put it? How do you manage through your cash flow? So when you make $1, where does it go? How do you find the lost money that's leaking out to taxes, maybe unnecessary debt, inflation, pressures, things of money where money's just leaving you? How do you get that money to recapture and put it back to work? And then once you get those things outlined, then you start figuring out, okay, how do I put all that in line and create a plan that takes me through over the next rest of my life? So you're going from your why for money, financial organization, what's your protection? How do you optimize your cash flow? Into how do I take that and then start to execute going forward? And then it's almost like a repeated cycle over and over and over again as you start to scale up and grow and become better and better and more efficient at your craft.
Okay. So you also talk about control the controllables. Would you mind explaining what controllables are and how can readers control them?
Yeah. So like in our world, like if the stock market moves, I mean, you can't really control those things. You can't control COVID, right? You can't control these things that are just completely out of our control. But what you can control is like, do you have things that will protect you from other things? So like if you get in a car accident, do you have the proper amount of liability coverage to protect you from the car accident? We can't control the car accident, but if you have those things, then that'll solidify your plan. Ideally, you have the protection there. If you're protected for, like if you have the right amount of life insurance, it gives you a permission slip to spend down money because you basically locked in your mortality at a lower rate. So now you got $1 to do multiple things. So you're controlling that mortality cost now versus waiting over time, which gives you more control of your money. So as you control certain things, then that gives you the ability to make adjustments on things that are out of your control. So having a very good foundation, protection, like a moat around your castle, those are things you can control. What you can't control is all these things trying to get in and trying to erode your wealth over time. But these controllables, if you can do that, that's how you can control against being able to enjoy your wealth, leaving it to the next generation, protecting against those car accidents, understanding how to manage through inflation and market corrections and things of that nature, because you've got volatility hedges and those things, because you've got a good risk management strategy. You know, in our country, we have football, right? Control the line of scrimmage, have a good defense, you have a good shot at winning. Controlling those controllables will be a very strong offensive strategy for you when times are tough.
Okay, so what's your philosophy, I suppose, in a nutshell? Is it all about, now that you're in control, is it about becoming a world-class saver, or how do we, once we get to this position, how do we flourish in the future?
Yeah. So every one of us has an income that we make. Like we have an income potential that we make as we go. And all that the money that we make, it's, if we don't set something aside for the future, then we don't have anything there to provide to replace our income at some point. So the only thing that we can control is our protection. And the only second thing we can control is just being a really good saver of that amount. So most businesses will set aside a certain amount of money for certain things. So for a family, we should set aside a minimum of like 15%. So you'd set aside 3% for technological changes. So technology is always evolving. So you need the new phone. Now we have cars that you plug in, right? You can't even get anything new without new technology anymore. So if you don't get the technology, it's going to erode. You need 3% for planned obsolescence. I mean, I swear everything you buy today has a useful life of like 5 years. So because you got to go buy a new washer and dryer and something else. So if we don't set money aside for these planned obsolescences, then we're not going to have that money. We have inflation. We got to set aside 3% for inflation, right? We got taxes. What our taxes are, you got to set money aside for that. And then, I mean, what about our increase in standards of living? Because I used to be totally fine living in a, in a little dorm room or fraternity house or wherever I was. And now, you got to have this house with kids and all that stuff. So as our increased standards of living go, we wanted those to continue on. So we've identified that if you can set money aside for these things and become a world-class saver, that's one of the controllables you can control. So no matter where your income is at that point, especially when you're in the wealth building stage, as you do that, and if you find that, someone that can do that for over a 30-year period should easily have enough money set aside that will replace their income, what they're currently making.
Okay. Before we finish up then, would you like to explain a bit about your evidence-based investment philosophy and how readers can create one for themselves?
That's a great question. You kind of hit on a little bit about financial anxiety and, people in scarcity and abundance and making financial decisions that may or may not be that we get emotionally attached to. So one way to get over those, to be able to make sure you got your money in a position where it makes the most sense for you, is have some decision of where your money goes that has some rules associated with it. So there's a variety of different ways you can manage money that have evidence. They have rules. They've been proven to work over long periods of time. You know what your risk will be. They have volatility. They have standard deviations. You can see some type of form of function of those. A lot of times they're academia-based models that have been built out. So there's a variety of different evidence-based investment strategies that are out there. So what we've done is taken those, compartmentalize them, and allow our clientele to really go through a process of thinking about what their financial behaviors are, what their cognitive ability is around money, and help them identify where they fit and then put them into a strategy that's got rules and evidence associated with it. So you're not making financial decisions based off your financial behaviors. You're actually following the rules of the financial strategy that are proven to work. So that way you can be calm, like when you have like a COVID issue or you have a financial crisis, or you need to make those decisions because you've already prepared yourself for the reaction that's going to happen. Because when the stock market or whatever makes that move, there should be a counter rule to that move if you're following these types of strategies, whether it's a diversified rebalancing strategy using the Fama French model, or it's using a momentum-based model, or it's using even Ray Dalio's all seasons portfolio. So these are all evidence-based strategies that have rules associated with them. The Ivy League and then Harvard and the endowments, they have the Ivy League portfolios and they're everywhere. So most people have never thought about, there actually are evidence-based. I just heard we should buy crypto today, or we should buy some of these other things, but they never go and say, where does it fit into my evidence-based strategies that have a place in there, versus just following into the financial behaviors and the hype of the time, or being calm in the moment and saying, I've got a strategy for that. And if it's out of date, how do we update it?
So you're taking all the emotion out of everything.
Easier said than done, but yes, it allows you to have rules. If you have rules and science and you control your controllables, you have an evidence-based strategy for that. You have a why for your money. It's more important than money itself. Now you've got some little simple hacks, what I call simple solutions to the common problem. And the common problem is living the life you want. And all money is just the resource to get you there.
All right. Well, it sounds like a good place to finish up here today. It's been great having you on the Retire Well, Retire Happy podcast show. Was there any parting message you would like to share with the listeners about your philosophy and your book, The Future Hack?
I mean, the best thing to do would be to get the book, read it. The proof is it works because we've got lots of clients that do it. I do it. It's been awesome. And it's changed my life, and it's only evolving as it gets better. But if you read the book and you go on to FutureHackMyLife.com, there you could actually sign up and get the download. And then if you like, we can go through our Invest for Life model that will actually take you through the book program. So we'll have an advisor coach you through and take you through the process if you need help getting through it. So you'd have access to like our financial game board and to be able to weigh and measure financial decisions. We'll aggregate your financial data. We'll do a full audit on your protection to make sure that you've got those controllables controlled. We'll teach you about, the rules of financial institutions and how to put them to benefit you the most. We'll talk about getting you an evidence-based strategy and going through your cognitive ability and your financial behaviors and really give you that path they can go on. So it's definitely a great opportunity if anybody wants to take us up on it. So FutureHackMyLife.com, and we're powered by Invest. So we'd love to hear your feedback. Give us good reviews. Would be great. And would love to hear what you're finding and all that stuff. So that would be my last thing. So I like it because we've got, 4,000 households that use it and are doing really well with it. So it'd be really cool to hear what everybody else is thinking that I haven't met yet.
Oh, okay. So you're helping a lot of people through this new program.
Our mission is to get 1 million people to be financially free from worry of money. So that's our mission.
All right.
So we got a long way to go.
Okay. Well, keep in there. I'm sure you'll get there if that's your goal.
It is definitely a lot.